What's good, everybody? I'm your host, Big God Knowledge, and you are tuned in to the Unruly Philosopher Show. And I'm here with another special guest today, Teti.
Yes.
How you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
No doubt, no doubt. And, I have you on today to kind of, share your knowledge and philosophy of, you're also an author. So, I like for you to kind of, give us a little bit about your background and everything first, and we'll kind of dive into the conversation about your book and, your motivation behind it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So my name is Teti. Teti Sherry is my author name and my model name, but I go by Teti just because it's easier. I've been writing poetry probably since I was like 10 years old, since I was a kid. Yeah, I used to just always look to writing as kind of, I guess, like a tool, but I didn't really consciously know it was a tool at the time. And journaling, I just used to always journal. Like, here's the Capricorn thing. We're not the best with our expressing our emotions. So I think that's why I gravitated to an outlet like journaling or writing, because it was always a good release.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I was complete opposite.
Were you?
Yeah, I think I always kind of like, which you learn, grow up and realize what bad. I kind of always internalize things. Like I didn't journal, and I didn't even read a lot of things growing up. But that's because of just life and stuff like that. But I wish I would have. But then it's not even like a regret. It's like you just learn as you go. And about your book, it's like when I read, start diving into like your book, it kind of like brought back a lot of those memories.
Really?
Yeah. And it's one of the chapters, I think it's like chapter 34, and to paraphrase, it kind of talks about like your past and like, I should have just opened the book and read it word for word verbatim.
I would love that, honestly. I'm curious. Page 34, you
said? Yeah. I'm going to read it, matter of fact. It says, there are many layers to healing because there are so many layers to you. And it says, healing one brings a deeper wound to light. Give yourself grace. There are so many pieces of you waiting to be nurtured with love and forgiveness.
Yes.
So that chapter alone stood out the most to me because I felt like a lot of like my habits, a lot of my scars came from like my childhood, but it's like I faulted myself for a lot of it, but still failed to realize I'm an adult, but I was a kid when I had these thoughts. So, and it's like, not to go too deep into that right now, that itself stood out to me. That's how I kind of know the chapter. I could paraphrase it, but I couldn't tell you directly.
No, that's actually one of my favorite poems in the book. So I'm actually glad that stood out to you.
Yeah.
That poem, I feel like, just in general, I wrote that. I think the whole concept of the book in general is just a moment of reflecting on everything, on your scars in an emotional and mental way. Being able to think about things or even say it out loud, I think we don't realize how much of an actual release that can be, and how much it can actually allow more things to enter when we're actually just looking at it from a different perspective.
Yeah.
So it's like, as kids, we don't realize that, like, we might have like, okay, there can be like a plethora of things that happen to us that can just like as kids, here's the best example I could make. As kids, we probably go outside and play all the time and scrape our knee 1,000 times. And after a while, like that knee, you have that same scar on your knee, and then it just keeps scabbing, and then another scar comes, another scar, because you just keep playing outside and you keep getting the scar over and over. And then it's like, after years go by, you realize that scar never healed. It's still showing physically. It's still there. And you just know you were a rowdy kid that was always playing outside, and you just have tons of scars that never healed. But if you look at it from a perspective of life, I feel like it could be the same way. Like, we kind of Band-Aid things and move forward and not really take the time to like reflect on it, sit on it, give ourselves grace about it, forgive ourselves over that, and then give it time to actually release itself in I think the way it needs to be released in order for us to move forward and not like revisit that. So like sometimes when we think that something is healed, it's not actually healed all the way. We got to kind of go back and give it a little bit more nurturing or a little bit more ointment or whatever the case is.
Yeah, I made a tweet the other day kind of about that, and it was more so in the way I was saying, like, necessarily don't run from your thoughts. You know what I'm saying? Don't try to bury them, like sit in them and try to figure out the lesson in it. Because no matter what, you can find the good in everything. It's something, if you really look. But I understand, like, when you have those built up scars and stuff, you don't want to face it.
Absolutely.
And so we grow up to have these built up scars and these ideas of what we think we really are when it's really not. You just this way because you never addressed something else.
And I think we forget sometimes that like I said, there's so many layers to you. We are constant, ever-changing beings. And if we believe that our thoughts are our reality or shape our reality in any shape or form, then we know that we're constantly evolving and we have to get to know ourselves every single day. And if we're not taking the time to get to know ourselves, it's like we're just repeating that same day kind of in a way of being the same person. So it's like, in order to get to know yourself every day, you have to constantly understand like there's layers to you and you're going to constantly evolve, and it takes getting to know yourself and it takes removing some layers, shedding away that skin and like being okay with letting go of it because there's a new evolved you that's like come not ready to play, like ready to like just take on life.
Yes. So I guess it's what they would call shadow work.
Yeah.
But people, they hear that word and they think it's bad, but it's like in science, it's like your shadow self. It's a part you hide from everybody.
There's contrast in everything.
Yeah, it's like outside of social media, it's like, and I try to always tell people, like, who's the real you? And you see it play out sometimes on social media. Some people paint this life like that is so great. Then one day that other side of them comes out and they're just having this complete breakdown. And I'm like, that's the real them.
And that's why I always say give people grace, because behind all of that is like, there's a human being behind all of that has the same emotions that we have, that has the same scars, traumas and stuff. But it's like, I get it though. Social media is like that. Like we have to put on our best version of ourselves at all times, because one of my friends told me something that changed the perspective of how I looked at social media. And she was like, you gotta treat it like your vision board. Like, and that's what most people are doing. If you treat it like a vision board, then of course you're not gonna want people to see your worst day. You're gonna want them to see the best version of yourself at all times, so you can give that other person having a shitty day the best version of themselves. So now that I look at it like that, it kind of helps me give people grace when I see like they're just always having a great day or just always like living in this like glamour of luxury. It's like we all wake up a certain way and we all know that's the reality of life. So it's like just remembering like there's a stage name and a stage person for everybody that everybody has to kind of put on to help themselves as well.
Like I call myself Big God Knowledge, but it's just my online persona and character.
Because you are God, right?
Exactly.
All right, and you are knowledge.
Yeah. Exactly.
So you're just a living representation of that in a more enhanced way online.
Yeah, and knowledge is just information. People don't understand.
And wisdom is just applying it.
Yeah, most people have knowledge, but they don't know how to apply it.
Absolutely.
And we're taught by some people like that. We have people like that in our family that want you to even respect them sometimes because they live longer, but they don't have the wisdom. It's like, it's just things like that in life. And so it's like, to sum some of that stuff up, it's like those scars, a lot still, I dealt with, in life, growing up, like a lot of people in our community, from a dad being a drug dealer to like a mom, being a drug user, to that ultimately taking her life. So I lived with those type of scars, because I never had a chance to have that father, or have a mother that I would wanted to have presence because of just those different things. So like, even for me, I couldn't really be a child growing up. I had to like transition to something else. So I went through life not really ever, sometimes not addressing those things. Like communication is probably my biggest thing I feel like I work on. And I'm not afraid to say it because once I can recognize it, I know I need to work on that. But that was part of my reason getting on social media. All right, I need to at least start talking more.
Right.
Because if you ask anybody that knows me, they'll say I'm quiet, I'm shy. But I've always been successful doing things. I was like, well, there's something inside of me that I'm just
ready to break out.
Yeah. And so I know when I came out and said, I arranged my name like Big Guy Nas, people were like, who the fuck you think he is? Calling himself God. But I'm like,
I just told you I thought I was.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like God's the highest extent of the mind that expresses itself through energy and matter.
Absolutely.
So why would I separate myself from something that you may separate from you? I'm just saying, whatever that is, it's in me. And I'm going to take accountability for me and my actions. And I know if I need to heal and I need to change, and I need to keep evolving, I got to always have like that self-evaluation.
Yes. And I think that's so important because like having that little spark inside you, that's like kind of like a light bulb moment where it's like it leads to so many things that connect the dots for your destiny. And I think that's why I love writing stuff like this, because healing is the first step to like understanding who you are and really getting to know your inner world, and your inner world reflects your outer world. So I feel like having those spark moments are those like special moments that are like, and when you actually do that thing that you thought that you could do and you take that idea out the universe and then you execute it, it reminds you of how powerful you really are, like, and what you're capable of. So it's like, why not want to heal and help people expand their consciousness just a little bit more by teaching them that the power is within themselves. There's no external thing to find. Yes, this can be like a tool, an external value and a tool and a reminder for people to go back within. But I don't think that anybody needs any type of like external anything to help them move forward in life. And I think that's an important thing that you said about like understanding that
it all starts with you and ends with you. So it's okay to read books and do things like that, but it's just information. It's like the saying, like, eat the chicken, spit out the bones. Everything's not going to always apply to you.
I've never heard that saying.
Maybe I'm country. I don't know.
But it makes sense. It makes sense.
And so I tell people, like, I read everything. Even the stuff people say, oh, you shouldn't read that, it's blah, blah, blah. But like, I like to know people's philosophy, because even if I don't like somebody, it doesn't mean they're not going to say something truthful.
Right.
And I think a lot of people miss a good chance to pick up on some game from somebody just because they don't like them.
Absolutely.
But a lot of times they don't even know why they don't like them.
Yeah, because they see something within themselves that they probably need to work on. But
this world is, I learned to realize, like, it's, when you don't address those scars, you just grow up. And even like as a man, I can say I'm a man, but at the same time, there's stuff I haven't addressed to fully be the man I want to be.
Right.
And I know that's still like a part of the constant, the evolution of working on your stuff every day. Like, it's every day is a new opportunity. It's a new day to sharpen your tools a little bit more.
And you learn how to not only be like an adult, but like to be a good parent to your inner child, to your adolescent self, to your adult self. It's like, we have to remind ourselves, like, once we get in adult mode, it's just not like, oh, I'm an adult now. Like, this is what it is. It's like when you start doing the shadow work, or quote unquote, or like you start reading into things to search and find other things. I love to learn. So like, reading books to me and like understanding other people's perspective on life is everything for me. So I completely get what you say when it's like, I love understanding other people's philosophy, because it's like, you could really learn $1 million worth of game from a man that just got out of prison, did a 13-year bid, and then somebody like Eckhart Hall who wrote The Power of Now. You know what I'm saying? Like, both are just as valuable to me, you know, and I think it's important to really understand not only information, but the wisdom behind it and how to really apply that to your life so it can make a difference. And like, I always say this to everything now, but just giving yourself grace, like giving yourself grace when you realize something, you acknowledge something that you have to fix, when there's something, a scar that surfaces that you realize you need to heal. I feel like those are the moments that sometimes we could be self-critical or hard on ourselves because we're like, I know I need to work better at my communication. I know I need to do this. Let me try and do this. But it's like, did we take a chance to just look and see like that we're actually doing it?
It's like, slow down.
Yeah, we're actually doing it. And I think being present in that helps you realize like how beautiful the evolution of healing really is.
Yeah. It's like our expectations we even sometimes put on other people to change. And it's like, if you haven't given them grace, they may still make those mistakes a few times. But if they're actually trying to work on it, eventually they will. But it's like, that doesn't mean you have to be involved in it and put up with it.
Because I know I done made 1,000 mistakes 100 times of the same exact
and
thing.
Be mad as hell at yourself, like, I knew better.
Why did I do it again? It's like it happens.
Until you like sit still and like myself, I'm like, listen, nigga, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, you know better than
sometimes you have to have those parental talks with yourself.
I do.
Like,
I'm
listen, I know our inner child really loves to indulge in chocolate, but I'm telling you, if you eat another chocolate bar, this isn't going to be good for your goal next week. So it's like, that's a light example, but
it's accountability is something that's very important, and it's being mindful of that. It's like, even like eating, it's like you said, eating chocolate, but like people that know they shouldn't be eating something because they got high blood pressures and that, and end up on blood pressure pills and stuff. It's like, I have compassion and feel sorry for, but at some point in time, you still got to change because you can reverse all those things. It's not something that's your reality forever, you know. But society's kind of set up to. It doesn't want you to just be able to know and do a lot of different things at once.
And just sit in the uncomfortability of it. I think people forget that it's okay to be uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. And I think because we just see like people start and then their end result sometimes, it's like, even when it comes to the basics of healing, we think like, oh, it should be a beautiful thing. We should look at it like this. But it's like, people don't want to do it because it makes them uncomfortable. But it's okay to be uncomfortable. It's okay to be new at something. It's okay to not know. Like, and I think sometimes that's not normalized. And I think hopefully like just like poetry books like my book, like Healing Unhealed Scars in the Sunlight, can like help people sit and reflect and be okay with uncomfortable moments. Yeah. Because it's okay. Like, it's okay to be learning something. It's okay to be starting out. It's okay to be a beginner in something. And it's okay to show people that you are. Like, I think that process makes you very bold, and like, it unleashes a certain confidence within you that I think exudes love in a way that heals your scars to move forward.
It's like life isn't a Disney movie.
You know what I'm saying? And I feel like people sometimes want to treat it that way. And that's why like people be so like resentful towards social media, because they see all these facades and things and they're like, nigga, you was just crying all day the other day. Now today, you over here happy as hell taking shots. It's like, no, like the reality is, as humans, like we have to be okay with like normalizing the uncomfortable learning process, and knowing that like there's going to be days where you might be more in your thoughts and feeling like, okay, I'm not living in creation, I'm living in stress. But sometimes we have to go low in order to get back high. But as long as you're taking accountability and realizing like, okay, yesterday wasn't so good, but today, here's what I'm going to do to make it even more better and even more of a present day. I think that is all you need, is that accountability to keep going.
It's like starting a business. You know, I've been an entrepreneur the last like, going on 12, 13 years now. And it's like, you know, starting out, it's never just fun, especially if you're self-funding, doing everything your own. It's like, you know, it's like this analogy is like most people not going to show up until they see the final product. They're not going to be there to see like those days you was penny pinching, that you was unmotivated, but the world didn't know that. The days you just was stressed out, there's all these other things you do to navigate through that, but as soon as you popping, everybody your cousin now, everybody's your friend. I know such and such.
That's when everybody's paying attention.
Yeah. And it's like, then they don't sometimes don't respect that full like build up to that. It's like, y'all see me being successful, but like I've always been successful, but not by your definition, through mine. I never gave up.
Absolutely.
But
I think that's why that's so important, is like learning your own definition of what makes sense for you in your own authentic way, like how to stay in your lane but still be whatever you want to be in a creative way. And I think that can help people kind of like not compare themselves during that journey, because it's like comparison can be such a thief of joy.
Oh.
And like once you start getting on like social media or anything during like a healing process, during building a business, during anything, it can really kind of like steal your joy and make you want to be like, I quit.
It'll have you self-conscious, whether it's looks, whether it's having money, cars, material shit. It's any of that stuff. Social media is, but it's like I said, it's all about your intentions of like, why are you on there? And it's like
intention. And I think as long, like one thing that I told myself probably like when I wrote my third book, but it was my first poetry book. It was the last one before this one. It was Gift Box. And being a self-published author, it has been like a process of like hit and miss. Like when I first started out, I like went through a third party. I got a little percentage of my royalties. It wasn't like the best thing, but I was just so excited to be a creative and create.
You gotta get your foot out there.
Yeah, like you have to learn that sometimes you have to put your business hat on and not be a creative and like learn certain things. And by the time I came out with my third book and I self-published on Amazon, and I decided like poetry books are going to be my lane. That's what makes me feel good. That's what makes me want to like, be of service to others. I would say that moment kind of made me realize like, as long as one person reads my book and feels some sort of motivation, realization, reflection, or any type of anything that gives them any type of light bulb moment to want to change themselves, then I did my job. And that doesn't have to give me $1 million. It doesn't have to make me, I guess, like retired by the time I'm like 40. But like, it does just need to make me feel like I'm helping the world and expand their consciousness, so the collective consciousness altogether can win and know the power within themselves. So it's like, once I came to terms with that by my last book, I think this book made it so much easier for me to like really like create for me and the audience that I wanted to like reach it. And I feel like for the most part, it's doing exactly what I needed it to do, even if it was in the hands of like 5 people. Like I feel good about it in that type of way.
Like I say, as long as it reaches one, it kind of reaches many. That's just what it's all about. All right, so you got a chapter called When the Heart Speaks. Can you kind of explain what that philosophy behind that means? And
so when I made Healing Unhealed Scars in the Sunlight, I split it into 3 parts, which was the 3 chapters. What the scars feel like, When the Heart Speaks, and Listening to the Soul. And just to kind of give some background, when I wrote What the Scars Feel Like, I wanted it to feel like removing bandages, like kind of like saying certain thoughts out loud that even if it's really dark thoughts, like I wanted them to be released and removed and reflected upon, and to remind people like we're not too different when it comes to how quick it takes 17 seconds for the mind to recreate a thought just like the thought you were thinking. So if it matches that frequency and that vibration of whatever like you're thinking, imagine how many things like it can come about and take you down this like rabbit hole of whatever. So I feel like I really wanted the scars to feel like what they felt like, random thoughts of that can literally kill you. Mm-hmm. And once you get through that and you remove those feelings of like, I am more than my thoughts in my mind, I can actually, through meditation, get present, ground myself, recenter myself, and cleanse myself in a way to where the imbalances in my energy centers are all aligned, put my body in coherence. So when the heart speaks, I really wanted that to feel like a conversation during meditation with your higher self. Mm-hmm. And I felt like that's exactly what those moments were. A lot of the time when I was creating this book, I spent a lot of time learning meditation, going through guided meditations, sitting in the sun. I would always go on like hikes to Stone Mountain. I still go to Stone Mountain like once a week, but I still hike up to the top of the mountain. I'll sit up at the top of the mountain and just kind of like sunbathe, sit in the sun and meditate and just kind of like allow what I would say is God to speak to me.
Yeah.
And as you start to get downloads and messages and profound, mystical, crazy experiences that like people probably would only believe if they saw it for themselves or felt it for themselves. Mm-hmm. I think that's when you start to understand like how to be guided through life and how to guide yourself through life. And I wanted When the Heart Speaks to feel like a guided message from higher self, because I feel like that is exactly what is happening all day, every day to us. We're constantly being guided. We're constantly seeing signs and synchronicities of things to help us get through when we're stuck in our mind, because we are in our head majority of the time when we're in our car driving, if we're not listening to music, or if we're playing a song and a certain, it could trigger a memory that got us thinking about someone or that vacation or whatever the case is. So yeah, I think I wanted When the Heart Speaks to feel like love from self. And I wanted When the Heart Speaks to feel like it's okay to love, whether it be externally or just having time with yourself.
That's dope. You know, what's the saying? The mind is all, the universe is mental. So it's like it goes back to what we're saying, like just sitting still, really navigating through those thoughts. That's all meditation is. You know, it's not blocking things. People have their own concept of it. And I'm not the most practitioner of meditation, though. Don't get me.
I say that all the time, though.
but you know, I understand we meditate in many different ways. You know, it's not your ideal. You know, if you just want to sit still, you know, what they call it, crisscross applesauce, like kids.
I do crisscross applesauce when I meditate, though. I'm not gonna lie.
I can't. I got my knees from football. I could never just do that. So
there's many, but like you said, there's many different forms of meditation, and we sometimes make it more complex than it has to be. Like affirmations are a form of meditation. Praying is a form of meditation. Sitting and doing breathing exercises, a form of meditation. Having quiet time and staring at a candle flicker, a form of meditation. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, it doesn't have to be rocket science. You don't have to shut all the lights off and hear all this oming and yamming or whatever. You know, it's like, it's whatever works for you. And I think you could start off 5 minutes a day, see where it takes you from there. And I think that's how I started. And I just kind of let it keep taking me further and further. It went from 5 minutes a day to 30 minutes a day. Well, to 15 to 30. Yeah. And then it went from, you know, guided meditations to self-teaching and doing my own guided meditations and healing work and all of that. And it's like the exploration and discovering your inner world is so endless, just like discovering things in the external world. So
that's dope. That's dope. You know, and I meditate all the time. One of my practices I do is like I try to majority of the time is like 30 minutes before I start my day, 30 minutes before I go to sleep. I don't look at nothing.
Oh, that's a good practice.
I just sit still and try to fall asleep naturally.
Really?
And I also listen to some people they ain't gonna like saying this, but I listen to my own affirmations.
What's wrong with that?
Like a recording of me, even if it's calling myself a god, like I am a god, I am a god.
What's wrong with that?
Nothing, but people out there are gonna think, well, that's crazy. But it's like,
why would people think that's crazy?
Because people are crazy.
That doesn't sound crazy to me.
Yeah, and
it
so
sounds like you know yourself.
I'll listen to affirmations about like I am successful, but it's my recorded voice because it's like if I'm gonna put any programming in me, it's gonna be me. It's gonna be my programming.
Absolutely.
And at first, it works. And because you start to not say I did, but you just don't worry about what nobody has to say about you, or what people think. Because it's like, I live by my philosophy and my own religion. Like, it don't matter what's out there. Like, I'm going to walk to my own beat, every day. And like, those practices for me work. And I know they can for other people.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And that doesn't mean listen to other affirmations don't work. But for me, listen to my own voice, saying it and just leaving it on recording and going to sleep listening to it. It's like people don't understand where our minds are still going. Like,
absolutely.
And we're recording everything. We may not be able to remember everything, but everything's being recorded. So it's like if I'm gonna put anything to like my mind, my computer up here, I want to data I can go back and reach into that's from me, not from some bullshit somebody else philosophy that I believed in that could be wrong.
I love that. I might actually steal that. What I do is I listen to, I don't know if you've heard of a woman called Abraham Hicks or Esther Hicks.
Yeah, Esther. I think Esther.
Yeah, so she goes by either or, but I guess she channels through Abraham, and then that's why they call her Abraham. But her name is Esther. But I'll listen to her. She has like short segments on YouTube, and I always feel like subconsciously if I'm listening to her say everything that I need to remind myself in my sleep, like how to practice the law of least effort or just be a walking magnet of manifestation, or just how to be present in general, how to forgive yourself, how not to like harp or carry on a thought all day that will just F your mood up, like just little things like that. So I'll listen to her, or I'll listen to sound frequencies, healing ones specifically, like remove all negative energy or have a good night's sleep type of stuff. Whatever I can find that resonates to me or what I'm feeling like when I'm heading to bed, I'll make sure I'll like clear that feeling out and like go to bed.
Yeah. Part of like my process, I always try to remind myself, like, are my thoughts my thoughts? Because it's easy to get trapped into things that you may not really be paying attention to, that could be propaganda or somebody else's stuff. And maybe I haven't checked to verify it. It's like people that read something and get up online and just spreading it. It's like, and over time they take on that other person's thoughts, but they never really question it to even formulate their own form of thought process.
Yes.
And so I can always tell a lot of times just by asking people sometimes basic questions to see what they feel about this, how they feel about this, what is their affiliation with this. And it sounds robotic. I'm like, okay, that is not your thought. You never really sat still to really even learn the history behind why what you're maybe pushing or what you're involved in. And which is cool. It's just for me, I know like I'm cool on that. But I just know that's like my self-evaluation tool that I do to always make sure if I feel a certain way about something, someone, or anything, I'm always making sure like, are these my thoughts?
Absolutely.
Have I sat still long enough to formulate?
Is that how I really feel?
Yeah.
I think that's something I've always asked myself too, because I've been meditating for a few years now. And I think the more I get into it, the more I'm bridging the gap in understanding science and spirituality, if that makes sense. And I constantly ask myself, are these my thoughts? Because I notice sometimes, like, how can I explain this? So from what I know about my own personal astrology natal chart is that like I have Mercury in my 12th house, which kind of allows me to pick up a lot of energies at times. And I could hear a lot of like, I could pick up a lot of chatter, if that makes sense. So me not realizing that at a younger age, but like obviously going through my healing work and looking more into me, I found that out and it was like, that makes so much damn sense because I at times used to feel like I was going crazy because I would literally be like, or just like when it comes to influential thoughts to where it's like somebody might say something that I admire or that says something and they say it so eloquently. It's like, I F with what they talking about. Like I like what they're talking about and I believe it from that standpoint of what they're saying as well. But then when you really look into it yourself and you're like, oh, they kind of had a little bit wrong. But it's like, you don't really know that until you, I guess, take the time to really deep dive more into you and who you really are. So it's like, you don't really know if that's how you really feel or if those are your thoughts unless you're really taking the time to know you. Yeah. And I think a part of that was like me always being like, okay, yes, I can pick up a lot of people's energies. Yes, I think at a younger, more green point of my life when I was like more of a teenager, I could be a little bit influenced onto like other people's opinions. But like now as an adult, I understand that like how I think and the things I not even believe that I know within me, like really mean a lot to me. So I always take the time to like sit with myself because I used to be very impulsive with like incoming thoughts. And then sometimes I'm reacting off of emotions that didn't even come from a thought that was, influenced by me alone, if that makes sense. Yeah. So yeah, I just wanted to piggyback off of that because it makes me realize every day how much sometimes we're not taking enough time to just sit on something before we react and realize like, I don't even really feel like that.
Because some people will like try to force their beliefs or ideas on you, whatever their philosophy is. And like the more and more I got into like esoteric knowledge and stuff like that, and those type of sciences, is I understood like how the subconscious mind, conscious mind works. Like simply like just getting up out of bed, that's more from like a conscious thing. Like, but we got to eat, we got to do certain things, but there's something driving behind that subconscious mind that we don't really pay attention to because we're not conditioned or taught or self-taught ourselves to understand these things. So like if I'm having a conversation with somebody and it's something I completely don't agree with, I kind of shoot it down, like in a respectful way, because I'm trying to reiterate to like my own soul and my own spirit's like, I'm rejecting it.
Yes.
Like we ain't taking like I'll tell them nice, like,
I can relate.
Like, man, I ain't trying to hear that. Like, especially if it's something like I know somebody else's, like it's not really their thoughts. They're just trying to push.
You just want to be heard, or you just want to be.
Yeah, and it's like, man, I ain't really trying to hear that. And it's like me telling my soul, like, we ain't going for that. We didn't already dealt with that and know that it's some bullshit. But do it respectfully. Just let them know, like, I'm cool.
Yes.
But it's like
that is the beauty, I think, of knowing yourself is being able to read people a lot better. And I think like I'm very much like that. Like I can read people and having first impressions are kind of big for me. Like, or first conversations, I'll say. Like if your opinion or certain things that you're saying are maybe too judgmental and coming from like, I guess, a narrow point of thinking, then it allows me to definitely reject and not say much because not everybody deserves your mind or your perspective on life. Because if you can understand from the first conversation that they're not going to be open to it, what's the point?
Yeah, it ain't going. We gonna be squabbling the whole time. Like every day.
So it's like I like being able to have access to that knowledge. It's like not everything's it's meant to be heard for the people meant to hear it. Exactly. Teeter-totting on that journey of ready to expand. Yeah. But the people who aren't really like on that is like, we're not meant to cross paths any further.
Exactly. It's like not going outside of self. Like, I don't mind sharing knowledge as much as I want to save the world. I know, like, for me, that's just not going to happen that way.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm big on, like I always say every show, like, control your environment. Don't let your environment control you. And what I mean by that is here, where I'm at, or the people I'm dealing with. It's like, I know I'm a universe inside of a universe that's inside of a universe that's inside of one. So are you. So is everybody else. So when I'm coming to another environment with someone else, you know, I'm always just mindful of the spaces that I'm in and respectful, and always give them like the grace, but I also can pick up on like things very fast.
Yeah.
So I know not to involve myself. Like, I don't want to have conversations with everybody.
Yeah, you give people grace because you know they're human, but you protect your energy at all costs.
Yeah.
And that's it.
What they call them, energy vampires.
Yes.
Because that goes back to some people subconsciously do it, and some people consciously will drain you. I think there's a lot of people that will consciously do it, but some people don't know it because they haven't addressed
their issues.
Yeah, and
their scars.
And that's when people. But I tell people, like, the stronger you are, and the more you get in tune with yourself, you always have enough energy, to give, and you just know not to let people even affect us, or you don't get drained. You just remove them.
Yeah,
because it's like, yeah, you want to give people a voice to speak, but at the same time, respectfully, I don't have to sit around and listen to it.
Yeah. And I think that's why it's so important to honor your own boundaries. Like, I think, especially me during my healing journey, I've learned to set tons of boundaries and communicate, like, this is what we need, this is what we can do, this is what I'm not willing to do. But just because you communicate things all the time, like I've learned through learning experiences, it's like, that doesn't mean that that's going to protect you from being protected because you communicated and told people or set the boundaries. Like, sometimes the accountability comes back to you honoring the boundaries you set, so people don't play with you like that.
Yeah, I firsthand experience, I've learned that is in business, relationships, whatever. It's like, not having boundaries for yourself, you not only disrespect yourself, but it allows other people to do it.
Yeah.
And some people are what they call habitual line stuff. It's like they'll do it because they know they can get away with it. And some subconsciously, sometimes you just got to check them one at a time in a way like, hey, like, I ain't going for this. Like, and respectfully, if they respect you, and
we can coexist still.
Yeah, they'll adjust, But it's this world is
unhealed.
Yeah, that's the word for it.
This world is unhealed.
And that goes into like your other chapter is, it's called Listening to the Soul.
Yes.
And I think that's very, very vital.
Yeah.
You got mind, body, spirit, soul, however people want to categorize these things.
Yeah, that's exactly kind of how I wanted it to feel. Like, I wanted it to feel like you were touching those main energy center components. Like, technically we have 7, right? But like, the main ones, the brain, the heart, and your solar plexus. I would say your intestines, where everything is, like, where you create all the power. Those 3 things, when they are in coherence and those things are in rhythm together, you can do anything you want in this world, in my opinion, because you have access to the guide and the inner self and the higher self that can constantly speak to you and guide you and love you and protect you and keep you on the right path. And I think when those centers are not in coherence, I learned that from Dr. Joe Dispenza's book, Becoming Supernatural. I'm not sure if
I've heard of Joe
It's
Dispenza.
a wonderful book, but he talks a lot about mind and heart coherence and how important it is to have them together. And once they are aligned, like, how easy it is. It can be for you and all those things. And I love his breakdowns, his terminologies, everything that I've learned watching his docuseries Rewired helped me a lot. But say all that to say, like, it really helped me understand, like, inner body and what energy centers can feel like and how important it is to have everything in sync and in rhythm and flowing, because when it does, it's like, can't nothing stop you, because you have all the answers within you. Exactly. And if there's no imbalance there, all it's going to do is keep expanding your aura, your energy, and your energy field will keep like kind of like just growing, I would say.
Yeah.
As you evolve.
Yeah. It's like your thoughts. It's like when you can think of something in your mind, you've just created it. Mm-hmm. And it's like in your world, and all you have to do is bring it into this reality. So it's like, if I want to be successful in this, if I want to do whatever, it's like you already created it. So it does exist. Maybe not on this plane.
Right.
And it's like the power we have is bringing it here. Mm-hmm. And I always say these things, like what we see around us is an example of that. Somebody had a thought. You had a thought to write a book, and you thought of it. It existed. You can see it. And then you aligned yourself to put the work in and bring it into this reality.
Absolutely.
And like, exactly, like people can do whatever they put their minds to and what they want to do. It's not going to go exactly how you think it's going to go, but you created it. And it's like you have to get aligned with those thoughts. It's like the universe is always in your favor, but it's like binary codes, ones and zeros. So it's like a yes and no, yes and no. Mm-hmm. So yes, I'm going to do this. Then it's a no. And so once I have a thought, if I don't put any actions towards that and I'm just speaking it, but I'm not even physically aligning with that thought, it's like, it's like solids, liquids, and gas, mental, physical, spiritual. It's like it's all these things aligned. So like I can have a thought and I can say it and write it, but if I don't put action to it, I can't just sit around expecting it to happen. Right. That sometimes we get caught up in those things. Man, I wish I would have done this. Man, I wish I would have done that. And we know people that are brilliant, but they don't put the application to physically do it.
Right.
And sometimes some people waste away doing that. But I realized the power that I have inside of me to like, I can be an entrepreneur. I can do all these different things. And so I started just applying that to my life. And that's how I kind of, I did become successful, but I also, had a lot of failures. Well, I say experiences. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like that.
I learned lessons from them. So yes, in reality, yes, they will be considered failure for me. I learned something from them all. Mm-hmm. And I'll be foolish to go back and make the same mistake again.
Yeah. I think also, and that ties into like, so listening to the soul helps strip away the ego. Mm-hmm. And I think stripping away the ego allows answers to become more clear and those creative ideas to be more clear. Yeah. So like you said, like being an entrepreneur and being a part of that, it helps you listen to the soul and be able to create those ideas and execute it, bring it into the 3D for people to like, or for me to bring it into 3D too, like a book for somebody to enjoy. But that all comes from like, the more you listen to your soul, I feel like the more you're able to be your authentic self and remove the ego from a lot of things that you don't really need in this life. Like sometimes the ego will lead you to do something that has nothing to do with the representation that you want for your new self. You know what I'm saying? Or have conversations with people that are narrow-minded or whatever the case is. But like, the more you remove your ego, the more you could hear the answers for the best intentions of where you're trying to go in life. And I think listening to the soul, I wanted that chapter to feel like that. I wanted it to feel like a reminder of like, yes, we have egos because we're humans, but like, just take some time to sit and you'll hear the answers as loud as day. Like,
That's dope.
Yeah.
So when I look back on like my life and like where I'm at today and like even like the things like I've overcome, it just, when we're talking about the soul and things like that, and I start thinking about like how I've been like cultivating like my soul. And it's like, even like we talked earlier about giving yourself that grace and that forgiveness, because ultimately like, the soul, it depends on if people are religious, spiritual, and everything is very vital and important of like cultivating that and always trying to stay centered and trying to reach that enlightenment, you know? And it's like, I'm thankful for like the things, even like the scars I've been through and all these different things, because I learned from them and I'm still learning. But I understand like there's some people that just never cross that bridge. That's the reality. That's sad sometimes.
It is sad.
And even though like I think about even like family, like my mother never got a chance to just address that, you know?
Yeah.
She left Earth, transitioned early, you know, and I feel that because we're connected, I can cultivate
that healing,
you know,
for both of y'all,
you know, and because I'm a firm, I would say, believer in like, you know, especially this law, this thermodynamics, we're all made of fire. So her imprint's always here, the physical, but we all go back to where we began. It's like the body's just biodegradable. You go right back into the earth.
Mm-hmm.
And every day that I breathe, I'm breathing in souls.
Yeah.
That's kind of deep.
Yeah.
But that's the reality. That's spirituality, though, is just to breathe.
Yeah.
So when we think about it, every day, every breath we take, you know, like I know when I think of my mother, she continues to exist now.
Absolutely.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of like the importance of like deifying things and like, it's nothing wrong with making, like I call myself a God, but I know like even my mother I came from, my father, I deify them still because is the only proof I have is I came from them. They came from someone, they came from someone, you know, but I know it's a continued path of cultivating, you know, and sometimes things in life happen where things are not going right. I can recognize that. I'm not going to let what happened mold me into this hardened person that thinks all this stuff is just crazy that we're talking about, or I'm too tough to be showing emotions and doing it because I know that's not right.
Right.
You know, and it just makes me, that chapter was making me just read things, making me think about things like that. You know, it's pretty deep though. It's pretty deep.
Well, thank you. I'm glad that it's nice to hear how it made you feel and like how it made you reflect on things, because to me, it's like souls never do die. Like, our external physical body and this little avatar personal, like there was, what was this thing I seen on TikTok that I loved, and it was like explain spirit and explain the soul. And it's like spirit is like the ocean, but you put a cup in the ocean and that's like your soul. It's like a personalized version of you getting to experience love through your eyes and the version of the identity you created for the learning you need on this life. And I always look at souls like that because, we've been giving like this personalized identity to live out as a fragment of source energy. But if energy technically never dies, it can't be destroyed. Energy cannot be destroyed. It's proven through science.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's like knowing that and understanding that allows me to understand that there's learning even beyond Earth school. So even when my soul transitions into whatever other dimension I go in, or quote unquote just transitions over to the other side, whatever that other side may be for people, to me, it's still an opportunity to learn what I couldn't learn as a human being with these 5 senses in this 3D experience. So it's like, if I were to pass away, or for example, your mom who is no longer here, which I'm sorry about that, but she's able to probably experience through you who's still on Earth and be able to guide you. And when she comes to mind, it's probably her being right with you, and you're able to sense and feel that soul energy connection. I don't know how right I am, but intuitively, that's what I pick up when it comes to like the evolution of when we pass on and how people can still be with us. And I feel like even though souls pass on through or don't get to finish their experience here, they're constantly learning through the people they get to guide and finish out certain processes that they couldn't. And I'm a strong believer of that because I've seen so many cool scenarios of people just being guided through life and protected through life, through past loved ones, because that energy never dies or is destroyed, and just there's still learning in it for everybody. And I think that's where the healing takes place, is like, as your mind expands and as you continue to heal and as you continue to move forward, that helps all of your ancestors, all of your past loved ones, and it allows them to see life just a little bit differently. Like, I don't know, you ever watch those like mediums who like are able to talk to like people who passed away, and they're like, oh yeah, your dad just wants you to know, like, you were so right about that, and they're so sorry. They should have listened to you a million times. And it's like, those I feel like are the epiphanies that most loved ones who passed away are having, because they're able to experience life through you now, and life protecting you and being a guide for you. And I think that's a beautiful feeling, like understanding the soul and like the essence and the love that comes from that connectedness. So
I feel like sometimes too is like setting them free. Like sometimes I feel like maybe they're stuck on something, or maybe they left in an unexpected way. And like you cultivating yourself and your soul, you free them. You know, because maybe they didn't get to answer all the questions they wanted while it was, because you never know when it's your time. When it's your time, it's your time. You
ever seen that movie Soul?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So do you remember that part of the movie where there's like the lost souls and they're just kind of like repeating the same negative context to themselves? And I really feel like that's a thing, like, because there's so many correct, what am I trying to say? Things that I've learned through books and through just spirituality and science and learning certain things over the time. That movie actually had a lot of the things that I read in there as like an imaginary like cartoon thing. But I'm like, nah, they're really showing us something here, because like this is something.
Disney and them, they know the science. And they put it through pictures, through logos, through movies, because they know the common person don't understand the science.
Man. And that moment was big to me, because it's like, there was things that I read. There's this book called Life After Death by Dolores Cannon, and she explains what life is like after death and like the whole transition process. She's like a hypnotist. She's been doing hypnosis and recordings since like the 80s, and every continent she visited or did like seminars at, she was able to like start to connect the dots with people that never met on completely two different continents, saying the same thing of their past life regressions or whatever she was doing while doing hypnosis. And she kind of stumbled upon it on accident. Like, she was really just doing it to help people get out of like their addictions or their OCD. And people were getting triggered into healing, and they were going through experiences that they were having in their past lives that trickled onto this life. And it's like, sometimes that healing really cannot take place to where it's like you have to come back and find out how to release it. And that's why I think releasing certain things and doing the work and finding out more about yourself is so important, because it's like, when you watch the movie Soul and those lost souls, like there was like a guy that worked on like, I think, was it Wall Street? And he was just like saying like things to himself over and over and over about like just that constant stress and feeling bad about yourself. It's like those negative feelings can like stick to your soul, and you kind of got to do extra work in order to like get yourself out of that frequency and realize like, oh, I was just in my ego, like, and I didn't realize I was dead already, like, whatever the case is. But say all that to say, I think we can kind of get stuck in certain things, and it just takes a little like realization to like remove that stuck moment and then release our soul to move on.
It goes back to that, you know, even like sitting still and like self-evaluation to realize patterns. You know, it's like the system is set up for you not to be a free thinker. Like, it wants you just to be this. It don't want you to be this, and this, and continue to evolve, because you won't ever address or ever evolve to be the true you. You know, because a lot of us in general, this goes to even like purpose. If you really ask people what their purpose is, a lot of them probably not. They probably describe what their like job title it could be, but sometimes maybe they never were given a fair shake to actually do what they want to do, but they kind of blocked off that what their heart wants them to do because it's something else or somebody else. Because a lot of times it comes from like parents. They want you to be this, but your parents may want you to be a doctor, but you want to be an artist.
Yeah.
But you don't do that to go do what they want you to do. But you live with
that void in your life,
that
whole
void,
life.
And you're never truly free at that.
It just got bigger and bigger.
Because who's to know? You could have been just as successful, like you said, successful is based on the individual. Their motivation probably wasn't, child's motivation probably wasn't money. The parents looking at it from their defense as security. That's why most parents push kids to be certain things. They want them to be successful.
Right.
Sometimes, but can it be toxic? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but this is my observation. But for me, I didn't have none of that. I didn't have no parents it influenced me in any type of way. So I always question everything. Like, why you got this? Why are you trying to tell me about this? Like,
yeah.
And y'all gonna go right. I'm probably gonna go left. Let me trip and fall. I'll be fine. But I know I'm not following these people in this direction. That's just how I've always been. And like the world is kind of set up that way. And then the free thinkers, the people that kind of, deal within their own science, they kind of get ostracized. But that's been throughout history, though.
Yeah.
Most of the people that were in philosophy, the people that was in esoteric knowledge, what they call them witches, they call them all kinds of warlocks.
Exactly.
That's
the crazy ones.
They call them the crazy ones. But when you really dive into it, it's like these people were just trying to get you to be free.
They were just trying to free,
in the biggest form, in the biggest way that we can be free. We know in systems is obviously within limitation, but free your spirit to where you're not even letting those things trap you.
Yeah.
Because there's all kinds of obstacles set up to slow you down. You just got to have like the wherewithal in your mind to keep pushing through, and so when I think about that soul, it's like like I said, it's a constant journey of like cultivating new ideas, new thoughts, addressing healing, sharing that with other people to connect with other souls, because at the end of the day, kind of what you were describing was like quantum physics, or what they would call even like quantum entanglement. Our ancestors already kind of described these different things through science, scientifically, even, you can go into like Kemet when they were talking like the waters of noon and all these different things and the different waves. It's like I exist here, but I also exist someplace else. So if I'm cultivating my mind, I'm cultivating it here for the physical. But I'm also creating my reality for the next life. So like my heaven starts here.
Absolutely.
It's not, and so I start to understand that maybe that's where people go. And that's kind of what Soul was describing. Like those people's thoughts were so stuck on that, they're trapped. Yeah. And I feel like we can, especially people we directly come from, but we can help navigate that by freeing them, by like cultivating ours. So when we transition on to that other side, it's just like a continuation of that.
Absolutely.
Maybe that was a little too deep. I don't know.
No, that wasn't too deep. I was with you. I'm like, okay, yeah. But I think that's why I, for a season of my life struggled with that word purpose, because it put so much on my shoulders that I didn't know what to do with. Because I'm like, well, having purpose, it just feels so serious. It feels so like...
It is.
And then it's like, everybody goes through this time frame and they're like in their mid-20s once they get there, that they're like, what am I going to do with my life? What is my purpose? You know what I'm saying? So I feel like I went through that phase, and it took me years after to realize that just getting up, waking up, and breathing is purpose alone.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And like, I feel like I had a conversation with my sister at one point too, and she was just like, I feel like I don't have purpose. Like, my daughter gave me purpose, but before I was just kind of like aimlessly like living with just kind of getting by. And she's like, but my daughter gave me purpose. Like, she's like, I used to look at you and be like, oh, she's a writer, she's this, she has this. She's like, I'm just not creative, I'm not good at anything. And I think when we get in our heads and let societal standards kind of like form and shape who we should be, it like takes away from time to ourselves to discover what creating can be like. Like, creating doesn't always have to be artsy shit. And I feel like people kind of like take on the purpose role so serious to where it's like they even push further away from their purpose and their soul by trying to find like the external sources and the things that will validate them to have purpose. But it's like, purpose really starts with you. It starts with getting up every day and knowing that you're alive for a reason, and that maybe it was only meant for you to have one conversation with this homeless guy outside that might have sparked his brain to get up and go do something that might change the world. But we never know what that purpose might be for, but it's here for a reason. And I just want people to really understand that, like, being alive and getting to know your soul a little bit more and practicing like your inner work, all the things that you were saying just now, is like, it gets you right on track with your purpose right then and there. Like,
it's like, don't let the world trick you out of your spot.
You know what I'm saying? Like, that's like, the finesse.
And worry about what other people like. Don't compare yourself to other people. It's like, I always tell people, like, my purpose is whatever I want my purpose to be.
Today it might be directing.
Exactly. Like, hey,
tomorrow it might be sitting down and reading a book.
Yeah, whatever I want that to be, that's my purpose, because it makes me happy. You know, and like you said, it is a serious thing, because people be like, I don't have purpose, I don't have that. It's like, you're here, you're living, you're alive, you're here, you automatically have a purpose. You know, that's purpose. And so, but society makes it so serious, though. Absolutely. It's like, oh, if you don't have a degree, you know, you need to go find a purpose. Like, that's somebody else's purpose, but that ain't for everybody. You know, or you don't. You know, you're not a part of this organization. You're not part of that. It's like, I don't have to be a part of anything. I just want to live and be left alone half the time, you know? But everywhere you turn, it's the way it's set up is just so fucked up. But I
feel like it was it tricked us into thinking the more labels, or not even like labels as in like clothing labels, but the more titles we had on ourselves, like, my name's Teti Sherry, and I'm an author, I'm a model, I'm an actress, I'm a this, I'm a that. It's like those titles give the impression that that's my purpose. So it's like, I feel like society tricks us into believing that the more titles we have under our name, then it's like it gives us purpose. But it's like, what if I'm just Teti Sherry? What if that is the title that I'm going for? What if I don't have a degree? What if I don't even have, I mean, I do, but like, what if I didn't? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? What if I didn't go for any of those things and I was just Teti Sherry? I would still read the books that I'm into. I would still, I think, be led towards the evolution of me in the way that I am. And I think that people are too focused on these labels and titles that it builds up too much fear to really be themselves at the full capacity that they can.
No, I completely agree.
Yeah.
I completely agree.
And healing, like listening to your soul, I think helps you heal. And healing helps you evolve.
Exactly. You know? So if you can give any advice to anybody out there, this about life, healing, whatever, what would you, if someone asked you, you know, what are some applications that I can use to like become free in the sense of like my mind, or, you know, or can I navigate through these situations, whatever they may be?
I think the best advice I would give to anybody who's looking just to learn themselves or find a little bit more of anything within themselves, I would say, take a seat with yourself. Take a seat with yourself and take the time to just spend 5 minutes of your time, maybe even 10, meditating and just breathing. Just breathe. and see what listening to your inner body can feel like. Like, just take the time. I always do this energy trick with my friends who are like, want to learn how to meditate the first time. I always tell them to hold their hand out, and I ask them to feel the inside of their hand. And everybody always looks at me crazy when I say that, because why would I be feeling the inside of my hand? But when you focus your attention on your hand, what your body does is you start to feel a tingling sensation. That tingling sensation is energy. And if you could just sit with yourself for like 5, 10, maybe 15 minutes and focus your attention on your whole inner body, I feel like that's when you start to realize how marvelous and magnificent your inner world really is, and tapping into that energy and how it can actually heal certain energy centers. And then you can start moving that focus and that attention not only on your hand, but on your brain, on your heart, on all of your energy centers, and just see what it does for you. Every day. If you start it and you practice it every day, see what it does for you. See how it changes how you move throughout your day. Are you thinking of the past while you're driving your car, or are you really enjoying the music, the windows down, and you could feel the air? Like, I feel like you notice how much more present you are within the day. And I think that's the most important thing that I can give anybody, is to be present with your day, is to teach them how to be present and not think of yesterday. Because when you're thinking of yesterday, you're putting your body in yesterday. Your body can't tell whether it's in yesterday, today, or tomorrow. So the best thing to do for your healing is to meditate. So that's the best thing I could offer anybody. What was the other question? I'm trying to think of if I could give anybody anything.
Oh, just pretty much any advice, of how to navigate through, emotions or feelings or anything like that.
And then just like, I guess after meditating, because that's the main thing I want people to do, is definitely give yourself grace. Because as human beings, we're going to experience emotions. Sometimes somebody's going to be driving in front of us, do something stupid, and piss us off, right? Or somebody's going to be doing something to where, we experience sadness or any type of emotion that we usually don't know how to navigate through. The best advice I could give somebody is to don't be afraid to feel it when it surfaces. Don't be afraid to navigate through it when you're feeling it, and ask yourself questions. Why do I feel this way? Is it my ego that's bruised, or is it my soul that's bruised? Why do I feel like this is an attack on me? Why do I feel upset or emotional, period? And I think being able to have those healthy conversations with yourself sets you up to have healthy conversations with other people. Yeah. And then it allows you to just kind of like be the reflection of love that you've always wanted to be, because you're healing yourself, and in the process you're healing others, because you're not taking the time, you're taking the time to yourself to not react in every emotional experience. And I think if we have emotional intelligence, it helps us navigate through life just that much more easier. So
it's like they say, patience is key. So it's like it all starts with giving yourself grace and just taking your time to really like sit in those self-realization moments. Yes. And just accept it. And yeah, sometimes it's gonna be hard, but that's temporary. It
ain't gonna last forever.
It's not, and if you give yourself the patience and grace, you'll get to the other side of that. And and that bliss is what they call it, or nirvana. Yeah. That balance, that middle point. And I think that's just the journey of like the soul. Yeah. And so, and in closing, I appreciate you coming on the platform today.
Thank you so much for having me. This was really a fun time. It was nice to be able to sit and talk and just have a conversation about healing.
Definitely, I wanted you to come back on, especially if you put out more books and stuff like that. And,
I'm already working on my next one. I got some ideas.
Dope.
Cooking up.
Dope. Well, if I can leave people with anything, like I always say, control your environment. Don't let your environment control you. And always, always like stand on your square.
Yep.
And I'm going to leave the people with that. Peace.
Absolutely.